Hello there, I have a land battle replay featuring the Vampire Coast vs Chaos Dwarfs, or should I say crab battle replay. Does anyone remember that animation of Metal Gear Solid back in the day?
Crab battle! Okay, let's do this, motherfucker.
Anyway, I wanted this to be mostly a crab-themed army. I had to cut back a bit though. Still have 3 Rotting Prometheans, one of them with the gunnery mob on top. They are led by the Big Crab and Big Lady, Cylostra, given her the Tide Call spell, her Crab Summon, her AoE debuff, and her Lore of the Deep passive, the Kiss of the Deep, meaning every time she casts a spell, she will damage the entire enemy army. And I like that because, say an enemy lord or character is just on the fringe of routing, you cast a spell and they'll stay routed, you know, they won't keep coming back, which can be useful. To support these crabs, there are some Syreens on the front. To provide anti-large, there are some deckhand mobs, and Carronades, which don't have anti-large, but they have cannonballs, which do good damage against single entities. Then, to defend them alongside the deckhand mobs, I have one non-anti-large unit, which is good against bats and dogs, because those types of units can easily dive the Carronades, and the Tide of Skjold, which is really good for its price point, as are most Regiment of Renown units, they'll be good against dogs, bats, or other infantry that get back here, unlike these deckhand mobs, which are better against cavalry and single entities. So anyway, that's the crab-themed army. Now the Chaos Dwarf army is led by a Sorcerer-Prophet of Hashut. This guy has the Chalice of Blood and Darkness, meaning I'm going to have to be careful casting a lot of spells with Cylostra, because every 90 seconds he will heal from my spell casts. From anywhere on the map, he'll get a nice heal from that, so I have to look at his info card here to see if that's on cooldown. He has 2 spells, the Burning Wrath and Flames of Asgore, as well as the Vial of Hashut, which is a very long fire debuff that he can put on like a single entity and have these hobgoblin archers with their fire arrows focus fire. So yeah, he's got these archers here, 4 of them, front line of goblin laborers with spears, 2 K'daii Fireborn in the back, which can dive pretty quickly through these front lines into my front line. And they have a really nice flaming and magic attack combo here, which is going to be good against these Syreens. Then in the back, holding down the fort, are some Infernal Guard. On the side over here, vanguarded, are a bunch of sneaky Gits, which, this is neat positioning for them. Ooh, nice visual glitch there. This is nice positioning for them because from this point, depending on how he observes my army, he could like go back here and attack my rear, or have him come back to support his main force. So we'll see what he does with those. Now as things get underway, we've already had some Carronade shots, going into the K'daii Fireborn, and these things are literally hit and miss. They can be good, they can be bad. I need them to do a lot of work on the way in here because, like I said, these Fireborn will be great against the Syreens. Here comes some arrows. And it looks like the Gits are trying to work their way back. Now, as the front lines begin to engage, we have a nice flank shot, pistol shot, and Burning Wrath combo from the Sorcerer-Prophet of Hashut on the Syreens. So that's going to butter them up really good. Now, as the lines are about to clash, I've tried to make a note to have my crabs go in pretty much at the same time as the Syreens, but I just kind of saw these laborers here, these weak things, and thought, oh, the Syreens are going to tear them apart. So I'm sending them pretty far forward, and now these K'daii Fireborn dive right through their enemy front line, the Chaos Dwarf front line, and start wrecking these Syreens. They're a really cool unit. So that was a nice engage from the Chaos Dwarves. And now Cylostra's going to get in there, and the crabs, and the Prophet's going to dive down into the middle of the fray and have a nice lord battle here, which is going to prompt Cylostra to summon some crabs. Now let's see where these arrows are shooting in. Focusing on Cylostra is probably a good call, but you never know. You never know what you want to focus on, you know, because I could always just kite Cylostra back, and then all that damage on her was wasted, and then there's all these healthy crabs. So for now it looks like a couple arrows are going into the crabs, and a couple arrow units are going into Cylostra. But she's not taking as much damage as the Prophet. What's happening with the Prophet is these Carronades are actually being really accurate. They've damaged the Fireborn a lot, and now they're shooting into the Sorcerer-Prophet. So they've been getting some lucky hits. Now some of these lines are starting to buckle a little bit. Syreens have pretty much dissipated, but these crabs are pretty healthy, and the Fireborn are quite wounded. Gordu's Backstabber who I forgot to mention, is going to support in any way he can. And it seems like my opponent has given him the Crooked Dice, which is a nice survivability tool, as well as Lucky Git, which if he's close to death, he'll get a nice little heal. So he's very survivable, and can just be like a nuisance, harassing character, Lord Sniping maybe. He's over here trying to help dissipate the Syreens. Front lines are kind of buckling for the Chaos Dwarves in the center, causing the archers to have to retreat. Another Burning Wrath from the Prophet comes down, totally just evaporating these Syreens. Meanwhile, the Lucky Gits have gotten into the back line here. I've dropped orders with the Carronades, having them run away as this Tide of Skuld enters melee combat. This is why I have the Tide of Skuld back here. They'll even put up a good fight against Lucky Gits, who are, or at least 100 more funds maybe? Now the thing about these sneaky Gits is look at this, their projectile attack that they launch, throw these daggers when coming in, and these things deal so much damage, but they're kind of wasted on deckhand mobs. Like these knives, one volley of these knives can like half health an Eagle character, for example. But still, that's nice damage to get on anything. So they're going to come in here and eventually probably clear up these Carronades, but not quick enough. As you can see, these Carronades have done so much damage to this Lord already. Hyper accurate Carronades this game. The Prophet's doing what he can though, with more Burning Wraths, and the lines, the front lines at this point, have pretty much devolved into Chaos Dwarves breaking with just the Infernal Guard holding firm, some Laborers rallying, and some Archers spreading out to reform and get more volleys off. Now, what had happened earlier was the Sorcerer-Prophet used the Vial of Hashut on Cylostra, causing her to take increased fire damage from these Archers. Look at that. Weakness to fire plus 20%, armor minus 60, for a whopping a total of 60 seconds, down to 40 seconds. But in that time, imagine if he had more fire damage going in besides just these archers. But that's still a good amount of damage, as some tides are going down, as the cannons were just really starting to wreck this poor Prophet. I've never seen Carronades be so accurate. Just crazy. So at this point, a lot of damage has been dealt to Cylostra, but half health is still enough for her to pretty much dominate most of the infantry that we see here. The main chance that the Chaos Dwarves have now, after some hyper-accurate sniping with the Carronades, is this Sorcerer-Prophet. He has the Chalice of Blood and Darkness, he will heal off of my spellcasts, and he still has a good chunk of ammo left. So despite what the balance bar says, I've seen crazier things happen than a lord like this coming back and pulling off a win against this kind of army, because the main thing holding this army together, the Vampire Coast, is this healthy, huge crab. And there are a few other pretty healthy crabs around, so it's a tall order for the Chaos Dwarves right now, but the last chances to rally the forces and do enough damage is pretty much approaching here, as the Gits kill the last of the backline here. More burning heads coming down to take care of these infantry. Yeah, it's pretty much going to come down to getting all the Chaos Dwarf units together, the Gits, the infantry, and clogging me up while these archers and their lord do enough damage to Cylostra. Oh, and Gordu's Backstabber can maybe stab her in her crab back, but not if a whole bunch of crabs have been summoned around him. He can probably run away from this. It might have been a wasted summon, but I risked it, you know. I'm like, hey, I'll try to get the crabs around and maybe he won't get out. And he does, unfortunately, get stuck up on the crab. Ooh, feels bad. So he's going to get surrounded there while the Prophet comes in, who has healed a little bit, as you can see. But there is a long cooldown on that heal. So he won't heal off another of my spells for another 50 seconds. And this is going to be a nice burning head. Nice burning head into these deckhands. So yeah, at this point, the Chaos Dwarf forces are trying to rally. Some units lagging behind here. And those undead polearms are so cheap and so annoying to get rid of fully because of the crumbling mechanic. So I think the crabs just did a little bit too much damage and stayed a little bit too healthy for these Chaos Dwarves to really come back. But like I said, there's still a slight chance with this Lord here and with the death of my Lord. So we'll see if the Prophet can somehow carry. The moment for the final stand is coming. And this may be a little premature because not all the forces are around, but he goes for it, which I respect. Goes for the duel with Cylostra and the huge Flames of Asgore spell. Look at that damage. That's some chunky damage. So he went in, he tried, but it's just not going to be enough. As Gorduz throws on his lucky dice, getting the physical resistance. And at this point, he his heal starts to wind up and then go off. It takes like 5 seconds to go when he's at low health, and then the heal happens. But it's a little too late as the rest of the army just breaks. And that's going to be a GG to my opponent, the Gentle Rat. I liked that army. I like the idea of the vanguarded sneaky Gits. It's always hard to choose, you know, like where to allocate a lord, where to focus your fire with your archers. Like I said earlier, you know, he could have focused all his archers on Cylostra, but then I could have just retreated her to my cannons or my Carronades, you know, and then it would have been wasted damage. Whereas he could be killing models of these other crabs. So it's always a hard choice. Same thing with the Sorcerer-Prophet. Like he dove down in the beginning at Cylostra to fight her, when maybe he could have gone back and killed those Carronades. He probably could have done that. It's just like, do you want to do that, or do you want to try to stop Cylostra from wrecking your own infantry? It's always a tough choice. But this was a good battle. It could have went either way, I think. The crabs just were a little bit too beefy. So thanks for the fun battle, Gentle Rat, and I hope you all have fun out there with some battles of your own. Thanks for watching.